people of the internet, I am back, and I am back doing a comparison of a Disney original animated film and its live action remake. And today I am doing Beauty and the Beast. Forgot that's what I was doing, hadn't prepared, so I have watched both of them back to back because I like to be prepared and I like to have not missed anything, even though I know the original back to back. So that's a sacrifice I have made, and let's get started. I'll start with the characters, and obviously the most obvious one to start with is Belle. I would say I do prefer the original. Paige O'Hara is amazing and her singing voice is amazing, and Watson did a really good job. But it was always going to be hard to fill those shoes, I think, and it didn't help what they did with the sound, because I don't know if that's her singing, I don't know if it's the style they chose, but I feel like that was unfortunate for her, and yeah, a bit harsh. But I do prefer Belle's costumes for the most part in the live action remake. I think they're mostly more detailed, they're a little bit different. There's like the practicality of the fact that like she's meant to be more involved with inventing than the original Belle is, so they're a bit more practical in that sense. I do miss the fur on the cape with the pink dress in Something There though. I think the fur was a nice addition, so I do miss that. Next up would be Beast, and again I think I do probably just about prefer the original Beast more. I think I don't quite like the aesthetic they go for in the design of the Beast in the live action. I feel like it looks slightly more odd. I think actors wise, happy with both really. There's just something about the animated Beast that I prefer. Then next up would be Gaston and LeFou. I think I almost prefer Gaston more in the original, but that's because they make the Gaston in the live action a lot more evil, and I kind of prefer the fact that Gaston's just meant to be this quite simple person who's obsessed with what is on the outside. And he's a bit prone to violence, but he's like not super evil. I feel like Monsieur Dark comes across as more evil in the animated one, but because they don't include him in the live action, they kind of transfer some of his more evil cunning to Gaston in the live action. Gaston is better looking in the live action. And then LeFou, I like both. LeFou in the original, he's like that cute, bumbling, funny character. And in the live action, Josh Gad brings a lot of that, but he also brings extras to it. So he brings the more camp element, and he has some very funny lines, which I really like. Yeah, like when he says to the triplets, he's like, "It's never gonna happen, ladies," in like just true Josh Gad style. Yeah, it's great. And I also find it interesting that LeFou in the live action switches sides at the ends, which is interesting, but quite nice that we get to keep him in as a nice character rather than a not so nice character. So that's I like that difference, definitely. Maurice is an interesting one. He seems a lot more kooky in the original, but then that's because he's more of a crazy inventor in the original. He's exploding things. What he designs is a lot more out there and wacky, whereas Maurice in the live action, he's more of an artist than an inventor. So his stuff is more delicate and in that way. So I think he then comes across less manic and kooky. So it's kind of more of a stretch for them to be like, "Oh, Maurice, you're just making it up," because I think he comes across as more with it and reliable in the live action. So yes, that's an interesting difference. I miss that Philippe the horse had a little bit more character in the animated one. I get why, it's because horses don't really make any talking sounds as such, so a lot of it was facial expression, which you get more with an animated animal than you do with a real one. But yeah, I do miss that, but I'm glad that we still get the really cute dog footstool. I think I would miss that if that wasn't there. And then on to the characters at the castle, so Lumiere, Cogsworth, Mrs. Potts, Chip, etc. I think I do probably prefer the originals more, and I think it's more about the way that they're designed necessarily rather than the voice acting or the lines. I think there are some lines from the original that I miss, and I'll come to those. But yeah, it's more about like the aesthetic that they went for, is that they went very realistic in how they looked, and I get that because it was a live action, but I think they lost sort of some of their cute quirkiness, which I think I really liked in the original animation. So yeah, so then they kind of just lost that because they were just it was a lot duller in colours and less facial expression, so I think that was a shame. But yeah, and some of the lines of Cogsworth that I miss are, in in the original when Beast says he wants to give something to Belle, and Cogsa's like, oh, there's the usual things like flowers, chocolates, promises you don't intend to keep. I think that's really hilarious. So then I'll talk about the songs. So I think the songs that are the same to the original, I think are still done well. Again, that's that weird thing about people say auto-tune for Emma Watson's singing voice. Others say it's to do with the techniques that they used for recording the songs. Whatever it is, that kind of, it is annoying. But yeah, and so then that's why the originals come across slightly better. But overall, I think the songs are the same in both. They have the same feel to them, they're done very similarly. So yeah, there's no real comparison. And I like most of the songs that are added. I think my favourite new song that we got from the musical version of it was How Can a Moment Last Forever. I think that one's beautiful, especially Celine Dion's version of it. But yeah, and the other ones I like, yeah, I don't love them, I don't hate them. Yeah, they're nice additions. They make the film very long in comparison, which is interesting. But yeah, so overall, yeah, still like the music in it. One thing I did note is that some songs seem like a bigger production in the live action, and I think that's because they've taken some inspiration from the stage production of it. Like Gaston is one that is definitely much bigger in production than the original, which I think is quite cool. I think the sets are done well in comparison to the original animation. I think some of them are slightly more developed, which is quite nice. Like Belle's home with Maurice, I think that's probably a little bit more developed than the original animated one, which is good. The forests are very similar. They both have that like creepy, do I really want to be in here feel, which is quite cool. I like how they kind of explain how it very quickly seems to go from summer to winter in the live action, where they joke about the fact that it's suddenly snowing in June. So I like that they almost address that. That's funny. But yeah, and then the castle I think is probably more grand than the original animation one, but it's interesting that yeah, they have it that it's falling apart at each time a petal falls, which I think is quite a cool thing to do. We have it obviously in both. The castle looks darker during the curse, and like the gargoyles, there's more gargoyles rather than they're like other things when it's happy and not cursed. So yeah, I think that's clever that they kept that in both. But yeah, it's a really grand castle. I really like that, and the library is fab in both. I love a good library, so I'm glad that that was impressive in both. I did find it interesting that Beast initially wasn't going to give her the library as a gift in the live action, and then he's like, oh, it's yours because you like it so much. I preferred it when he actually gives it as a gift, because in the original I picked up that the Beast looks like so ecstatic to be presenting this thing that he thinks she's going to absolutely adore. So yeah, I thought that's cuter in the original, definitely. For me, some of the key differences that are both good and bad. So firstly, I do miss that the introduction in the animation one is done in that really beautiful stained glass style. I think it's a shame they couldn't find some way to have an effect of stained glass maybe in the live action. I think that would have been cool, even though they obviously had real people acting out, but I think there would have been maybe a way of doing something there which would have been really cool. Then I noticed that the proposal scene is different in the live action, and I think I prefer the animated one just because it's funnier that Gaston ends up in mud and there's the pigs and stuff. Yeah, I think that's funnier that like, yeah, she basically shoves him out into mud, whereas she just shuts the door on him in the live action, which is a little bit less humorous. One difference that I do like is that the Beast reacts more harshly to Maurice when he takes the rose, and I like that addition because that's actually in the original fairy tale of Beauty and the Beast that Belle asks for her father to bring her back a rose while he's gone, and yeah, he does. He takes one from the Beast's garden, and then that's when the Beast imprisons him. So I like that they actually add that in rather than the Beast just not being happy that Maurice just walked in. So yeah, I think that's quite cool. And then one difference again that I do miss though is Chip stowing away when Belle goes back to look after her father, and then he uses the big crazy axe wielding machine to break Belle and Maurice out. In the live action when they're trapped they just pick a lock on something. Yeah, and I kind of missed that scene with Chip, but it's because there aren't those crazy inventions lying around, so they couldn't have kept that in. But yeah, I do think that's a little bit of a shame. And then to finish, some similarities between the two that I'm glad were included. So I'm glad we have that classic Belle discovering the rose scene and the paintings on the wall, like with the slashes through. Yeah, I'm glad that was still included. In fact, that's a couple of the bits that were in the trailer that if you sat two trailers side by side, they were like mirror images, so that's pretty cool. I like that the ballroom scenes were very similar. I think I prefer the yellow dress a little bit more in the original maybe, but I think the overall ballroom scene had the same feel, like there was the blue and gold running through it, like the nice light. There was some glass, there's more glass in the ballroom in the original, which I really like, but yeah, the overall feel of the ballroom scene is still really similar. I like the fighting scene when the mob comes to the castle and all of the staff objects come together to fight them off. I like that you still have Mrs. Potts pouring hot tea on them, and the scene where the wardrobe like puts fancies women's clothes on some of the men, and yeah, I like in the live action that one of them actually likes it because they like to cross dress, so that was quite cool. And then I'm glad that, like, yeah, it's quite similar in the Gaston attacking the Beast, and then the Beast sees Belle and then he gets his fight back, but then he proves that he's the nicer person because he won't kill Gaston, but then Gaston hurts him again, but then Gaston gets his comeuppance, so I'm glad that happens like that. The transformation scenes are very similar. I think I almost prefer it a little bit more in the live action. I think the one of the Beast, I think, looks a little bit better because it's like the light sort of is, and the petals are all like around him rather than the shooting from the hands, which is a little bit odd at times if you think about it. But yeah, and then the final ending scene, sort of like, yeah, with the final dance scene, is, yeah, it's nice and similar and lovely. So yeah, so overall I do think Beauty and the Beast is probably one of the slightly better live action remakes. It is almost a little bit too similar in some ways, in the sense that I would kind of prefer, if you were going to do a remake, that you were able to bring something a bit new to it, whereas yeah, it feels very similar on the whole, so it's kind of a good thing and a bad thing in different ways. But yeah, it's yeah, it's one of my preferred live action remakes. But yeah, let me know what you think about the Beauty and the Beast live action remake, and how you think it compares to the original animated. Also feel free to drop comments about any of the other live actions, because I like to discuss all of them, and eventually I do want to compare all of them. This will be a series, there's been 2 so far. So yeah, if you did enjoy this video, do give it a big thumbs up. If you have not already and you want to see more, do hit that subscribe button. I'll drop some videos around here that you might be interested in because you watched this one, including my last comparison video, and I will see you in my next one. See ya!